Satoshi and I had what? All of my well-planned actions throughout the day turned out to have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi. Had he really been in the same situation as I was now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly, and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed, planned to kill him. Then, fearing for his life as I am, he got a bat to protect himself, and carried it around every day to practice his swing. And then one day, suddenly, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course throughout my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at wherever he transferred to? Was he the only one who could be able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? She probably meant death, dude! What did she mean by transfer? Before I knew it, I was at my front door. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to my first seal keychain. I stepped into the entryway. Just as I was about to take off my shoes, a chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right behind me, like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Kiachi. How do you know they're there even though they're behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There was no other reason I could hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I could hear the sound of them blinking. Kiachi Mabaro, there is no way you could hear that. It was mostly instinct than anything else that was warning me of that presence. Common sense was telling me that it was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was no one behind me. I began to erase the mental image of an eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time, I asked myself, if there was a nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was somebody there, then when you turned around, you'd be able to accept it. I'd be able to answer all of those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have enough courage to even do that simple task. Alright, I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just as long as I didn't have to turn around. If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that I wouldn't have been able to solve anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There was no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Kiachi. It's all in your head. That time I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. Like, 90% of the people we know in this town are girls, dude. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament. A scream. No, it's not. All the force of my body released from my lungs and through my throat, ceasing all my thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards. Somehow managed to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around, I thought until the moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible? They looked like they weren't there, but they were actually still standing there. As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I thrust my body into the fury. I have no idea what's going on right now. Like, did he turn around and no one was there, or is he seeing like a ghost? What? The metal bat held firm in my right hand as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remembered reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. Oh no, is he turning around at this moment, swinging at somebody? Okay. So he's screaming and swinging at someone. Ah! I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of that amalgamation of metal flashed as it swung from my left to my right, beating against the entryway. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extracted the bat from the cupboard it was embedded in and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. Okay, so I think he's either having a mental break or fighting a ghost. My scream shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Crack. Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with a certain fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy there, but not there, dispersed. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in... When I was certain that the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. So, did he just have a mental break and imagine someone was there? No way. Had it only feigned retreat and was now inside my house? Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence, but it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All of the emotions I had been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my entire body. Unable to deal with each individual's feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room in the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. After clearing my mind of all idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition. I dreamt up in my confused state, but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Kiyachimabara. Compose yourself. But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obvious a supernatural phenomenon, and without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just one piece? When I asked who was it, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I had been possessed by a supernatural phenomenon known as Oshiro-sama's curse, or it was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetuated by humans, then that would mean admitting that it was Rena and the rest of them doing it, but it would be solvable. Owashi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oshiro-sama's curse, I wonder what would happen. Owashi-san very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable, but as things are now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Owashi-san that this was the work of Oshiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without question that the void would expand rapidly between myself and Owashi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse or not, there was definitely no merit to doing that. I better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself. It would be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually confused when I thought I was composed, and I was just going berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would it be if that was really what happened? I would be able to refute Oshiro-sama's curse. But if I denied Oshiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Rena and the rest of them were the perpetrators. If I said that Rena and the rest of them weren't the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oshiro-sama's curse. But by denying both of these, I would be admitting that I myself was going fucking nuts. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Kihachi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful would it be if it turned out I was delirious and everything up till now was a figment of my imagination? Oshiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist, and I would still be the bestest buddies with Rena and the rest? I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such thing. The phone rang noisily downstairs. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone that much. But since my parents weren't home, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. Hello, this is the Mahabara residence. Kihachi, this is Mom. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. It was because I had thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative. What? I don't mind having instant noodles for dinner. There's still a lot of them. The other day we went out as a family and had bought a whole case of cup noodles. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds actually, but they refused since the individual packs were so expensive. So instead I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork bone and ginger flavor ones I liked. But my parents didn't like the strong flavors and I didn't touch any of them, so the cupboards were still full of them. So you see, there really isn't a need to go shopping, right? Kihachi, I'm not asking you to go shopping. Both Mommy and Daddy have to go to Tokyo right now because of work. Huh? Right now? That was really abrupt. No, we're already here. We left this afternoon. It's quite a distance to Tokyo from Hamanazawa. Gunning at full speed down the highway would still take 6 hours. Dad has a license, but since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer. I'm thinking you might understand since you heard us speaking last night, but it has to do with Daddy's contract. Right now, things aren't going so smoothly. Now that she mentioned it, I did remember that they talked all that time about how his job prospects weren't looking so good. Daddy is really sensitive about things like this, so if we leave things the way they are, it will affect his work. Part of my father's particularly fragile, artistic personality, his emotions changed as easily as the fall sky. You could also just say he couldn't take criticism. But something like that can be done over the phone. Kiachi, this is your father's job, so can you please support him a bit, please? Anyway, it's just faster to talk about it in person, so there wouldn't be any misunderstandings. As their son, there was nothing more I could say once they started talking about work. So we'll be back tomorrow night. Kiachi, will you be fine on your own? It's not like I'll die or anything. Well, wait. Really? You know what situation you're in, dude. Really, that's the choice of words you want to go with. Kiachi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, just talk to us. I believe Mommy will be able to help out. Yesterday I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. But I didn't plan on dying. At least, not while I still knew nothing. I would never allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if I have to gnaw my own legs off. Yeah. Yeah. Wait, no, that's his mom again. Yeah, see you then. Tomorrow morning, make sure you wake up. And eat your breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth. Yeah, see ya. The call ended like that. Sometimes my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings, but Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they'd go were normally planned out in advance, and it never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say that those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather, unnatural. Anyway, I only needed to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone, missing, vanished. Looking back on the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Oshiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light in the whole house was from my room on the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone and that this was their chance. First, I ran to the living room and flicked on the lights and turned on the TV to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. Similarly, I turned on the lights and some music. With this, from the outside, it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went through the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. I should be fine now. The garage! They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to Okinawa Station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This wasn't good. I panicked and rushed out the back and closed the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. I need to get the paper. Mom always got the paper. Since they left this afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it into the entryway. With this, for sure this time, it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freak-out was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell and the bat I was holding smashed into it. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a little before Mom got back and scolded me. I remembered that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet. Right as I was going to get them, the phone rang once again. Hello, this is the Mahabara residence. Oh, is this Kiachi-kun? Is your mother around? Oh, for fuck's sake, I don't know who's talking. She isn't here at the moment. You idiot, Kiachi Mabara. Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can follow up still. Calm down, take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. That wasn't a good response either. Now they might say that they'll call again, or to tell them to call her when she gets back. Then that's fine. It wasn't anything important. I'll wait. Well then, sorry for the bother. When they add random people, it's hard to figure out who the fuck's talking. The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was fortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with more telephone calls coming in for my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home, but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That was good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang again. It was like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick it up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should just have taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up the receiver. Hello? I stopped announcing that this was the Mahabara residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and lighthearted.
Hello! My apologies for calling so late. This is Iwashi from the Okinawa bookstore.
Iwashi-san?
Is that you, Mahabara-san? Good evening. Good to hear you doing well.
Wait, just a moment, please. I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same no matter where I was, since there was no one else home, but I wanted to be in a spot where I felt just a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Iwashi-san. Sorry for the wait.
How are things? Anything's changed since then?
Since then? When was that exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked about it that rubbed me the wrong way. The last time I spoke with Iwashi-san was 2 days ago. That day I stayed home from school. I met Iwashi-san on the way back from the hospital, and we headed down for lunch and had a talk. Then after that, Rena and Mion came to check up on me. Whenever I spoke with Iwashi-san, they always knew about it. It was like that since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may have well be found out by them as well.
Hello? Can you hear me, Mahabara-san?
Huh? Sorry. What did you say?
I asked if anything's changed since the last time. There wasn't an answer, so I got a bit worried.
Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but I should try asking. If I didn't ask how, then I may never have another chance. This night, when my parents weren't home, I had no guarantees that I would make it through the night safely after all. Well, Iwashi-san, it seems that someone is after me.
Really?
It could be just a coincidence, but that day I missed school when I was sick, 2 of them came to check up on me.
Which 2?
Rena and Mion. They started asking about how I had lunch with you.
What next?
They left me some mochi when they came to visit, but there was a needle inside. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder, could that have just been a threat?
About the needle?
It was just one of those common sewing needles you'd see all the time. There was a hole There was a hole to string the thread through. Oh my god.
Not that, Maribara-san. The needle itself. That's evidence. It can be used as proof that they threatened you. Where is that needle?
That's right. That's it. I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed out the mochi, I had overlooked it out of terror, but that needle was a valuable piece of evidence. I had certainly thrown the mochi and the needle in the wall together. If it was there, then it would be on the living room wall. But my prudent mother had cleaned that living room wall, and there was no trace of the mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palm along the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and the desk and pulling up the carpet, then flapping it around, but I couldn't find the needle. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know what day they collected the burnable trash, but it may still be in the trash bin in the kitchen. I rushed into the kitchen, opened up the lid of the pail, and poured it out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell that it would be incredibly difficult to find the needle in this pile of trash. I was looking for a needle in a trash sack. I know, I'll try running my hand through it. That's a stupid idea. It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. And if I felt a small prick, I'd be able to find it. It was the pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking at the pile of trash with my hand. Filth flew about. There was nothing more disgusting than this. But it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Iwashi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling on the notepad affixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Where was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. Then I dashed back up to the stairs where I had been keeping Iwashi-san waiting for far too long. Hello?
Hello? How did it go?
I couldn't find it. I was really overwhelmed back then and...
I see. It would be great if you could find it. Keep it safe.
That's right, the needle wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with the hit and run. Also, Iwashi-san, that isn't all. Actually, this morning, that van was definitely aiming for me, and I could say that without question due to the circumstances at the time.
Did you see its license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn!
I just flipped out and yelled at him back then, and I didn't look at the plate. What a failure on my part with the needle and the plate number. I was so focused on just protecting myself that I let some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry. I didn't know much more than that, and it was a white van.
Nothing to fret about, Maribara-san. Anyone will be shaken up after being hit.
I guess. All of this really... Isn't it a coincidence? Is it? Isn't it a coincidence, is it? Iwashi-san started to hem and haw over the other end. I could imagine him folding his arms. Also, Rena is acting strange.
How so?
What Rena said on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I could say it with confidence, that Rena knew what happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than him just simply disappearing. Rena knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year.
What would that be exactly?
Rena said I was the same as Satoshi. She said something to the effect that the way things are going, I'll end up with the same fate as Satoshi.
Fate, you say? Exactly what kind of fate did she say would befall you?
Transferring out, she said.
Transferring out?
Rena said Satoshi transferred out. So, given how things are going with me, I'll transfer out too. Iwashi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly.
Maribara-san, that was probably some sort of threat, or maybe some type of warning.
I thought so too. At that point, I started to think. Would it be prudent to sum up everything that had happened up until now as the machinations of some human perpetrator? Other than the theory of it being Rena and the others, I was left with Oshiro-sama's curse actually existing, as it's the only other explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Awashi-san. Except Rena's strange behavior could be proof of either scenarios. Whether it was Oshiro-sama's curse being real or everything being a part of a conspiracy committed by all of the villagers, Rena was involved. Rena had to know something. Rena was suspicious. What exactly was Rena? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with a prior string of mysterious deaths. I seemed to recall that Owashi-san had admitted that he had dug into Rena's past a little. He was probably just downplaying it when he said a little, meaning he had actually dug pretty deep, most likely. I wanted to hear about Rena. I wanted to know what happened at her previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Rena was somebody I could suspect, no. Not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I felt I had just by my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they could easily gain entry. There was no other residence close enough to the Mahabara residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I had never felt as much resentment towards my father's artistic temperament than the fact that he had this house built in such a remote location as I did right now. I wonder if I would still be here tomorrow morning. So I had to ask, right now, because I had no idea when the next chance would come. Owashi-san, I have something I wanted to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me.
Sure, ask away.
Even though he was so far away on the other end of the line, this was the most reliable he had ever felt. I wanted to ask about Rena, about what had happened at her previous school. Actually, regarding Rena's... I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. Since I was so focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first, but I finally realized it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making a delivery, and past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. That would ruin all the work I put into making it look like my parents were home. I needed to answer the door.
Hello, Maribara-san.
Sorry, someone seems to be at the door. I'm going to go see who it is.
A guest? I see, my apologies. Should we end this phone call now?
That would be a problem. No, I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave you on the phone?
It's fine, I don't mind.
I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed down towards the door. I needed to make up a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch that it was the lady who called right before Awashi-san did. In that case, it would be one of the neighbors who's friends with my mom. I'll just say my mom isn't feeling well and went to bed early. That would be the easiest option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake my mom up if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell so much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out at the visitor. A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside I had prepared for this moment. I tried to escape by imagining it was the easiest person to deal with, one of my mom's friends. Is that me or her talking? Good evening! Rena. There shouldn't be any reason for Rena to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Awashi-san about Rena. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence, but those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back at me. There is nothing this old man doesn't know. Are you alone, Rena?
Yeah.
It seems that Mion wasn't with her, but that didn't change the situation at all. Why did you come here?
Hey, Kiachi-kun, I'd like you to open the door so we can talk. Can I come inside? I wonder.
It was true that speaking through a chained door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate, but at my house the chain has to be on at night. Don't worry about it.
Then it can't be helped, I guess.
Rena pouted rather sadly. But she smiled. She kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile up was quite painful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that hoodlums would assault me if I would remove the chain, was trusting Rena enough to remove the chain and having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made my heart ache, I wouldn't have to deal with being betrayed by Rena. Since it didn't seem like I'd removed the chain from her silent urging, she appeared to give up on trying to get into the entranceway.
Have you eaten yet, Kiachi-kun?
No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't there, dinner wouldn't be ready, so no matter how long I waited. I laid down when I got home and was woken up by the phone, and I didn't have a chance to eat since I used up all that time talking. I was just going to have cup noodles in any case. I could just eat one whenever I wanted to. No, not yet. What about it?
Then good. Look here. I brought a bunch of dishes.
Rena held out a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth.
If I could use your kitchen, I can heat up the miso soup and other stuff.
It's fine, you don't need to do that.
But there's a lot of tofu and vegetables in it. Does Kiachi-kun not like that type of stuff, I wonder?
There's no way I wouldn't like it. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. White radish, carrots, burdock roots, and potatoes, dense and fibrous root vegetables. Yeah, those miso soup looked incredible.
I also brought rice, so if you microwave it, you can eat it really quick.
Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Why are we going off on this weird tangent? Anyway, stuffing rice down your gullet, sipping miso soup in between ravenous bites. Oh yes, how wonderful it would be to be born Japanese. I also had...
I made some more pickles. I made sansu pickles this time.
Before I had moved here to Hamanazawa, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai. But I was captivated by their charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep yet light flavor. The vegetables from the supermarket were tasteless and bland compared to these. Whoops. If you had to describe them, then they were the vegetables for the uninitiated. To become an expert such as myself, you first had to partake of sansai. Oh my. It was common knowledge around here that the Ryugu family traditional pickles were wonderfully delicious. No matter what kind of pickles they were. They go well with that fluffy white rice.
And also...
But wait, there's more. So delicious it just seems so delicious. Farewell to my unhealthy self who said he'd make do with cup noodles. Rena appeared to be in good spirits, and she was offering such delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut, and hunger reared its voracious head. At the same time, my wariness of Rena suddenly dwindled. Rena did say she was alone. It shouldn't be a problem letting her inside, though the possibility that it was laced with poison still hadn't been ruled out. At that moment, a cold chill ran down my spine once again. I couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then, but the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. This happy Rena speaking of this charming dinner was dependent on one premise. And that premise was that tonight dinner hadn't been made at my house, meaning it was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't here. At any normal household, 7 o'clock would be around the middle of dinner time. If my mom were here, we'd be eating dinner around this time as well. The fact that she brought over all of this, the makings of a meal, at this time was inherently strange. Unless she knew. Rena. Did she? Did she know that my parents weren't home? But there was also the chance that this was a bluff. I had turned on the lights and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were here. There was a chance that Rena was unsure if my parents were home. But I had to wonder. The laundry, the garage, the evening paper. Those were plenty of signs to them that they'd been hastily tidied up. It was so hard to say if Rena didn't have a chance to... It was hard to say that Rena didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not. But there was no reason for me to confess that right now. I should try holding on to that fact as long as I could. First of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Rena wouldn't be able to do anything to me. I'm quite grateful, but dinner will be ready pretty soon.
Huh? Is that so? Is that so?
I know you went through all the effort and everything, but, well, unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly. But I think some of this could work as side dishes. Wait, no, that's her.
But some of this could work as side dishes, I think.
I'm sorry, we have more than enough already. My mom always makes quite a few sides, so...
Huh? You have side dishes?
With a smile that bordered on a cringe, I dodged her questions apologetically. But the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping back up again. I spoke as if my mom was setting down to dinner right now, but it didn't mesh well with what Rena was saying. Rena was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact, and that I was aware of as well.
So Kiachi-kun can cook? What'd you make, I wonder?
No, well, it's not that Rena had assumed out of nowhere that I had made the dishes. No, not so much that I had made them, but rather that my mom hadn't.
Did you really make them? The side dishes? Did you, Kiachi-kun?
It wasn't me who made them. My mom did. No, she's making them. Right now. So you see, I'm sorry, but I can't eat what you brought. Rena fell silent at that moment. At that moment, I felt that the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes.
How about I try guessing what Kiachi-kun's dinner will be?
It doesn't matter what I'm going to eat.
Let's see.
The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Rena was firmly in control. It felt like I was being interrogated.
Your dinner, I wonder, is something that can be made with just hot water.
Hey, now, stop with the insults. I can't believe you'd belittle my mom's extravagant dinner like that. Tickets sold out, full capacity already. It's that amazing. I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grip my teeth quite right. So instead, I looked like someone who was borderline hysterical. But Rena showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness.
Kiachi-kun, did your mother really leave you dinner?
No, you see, she didn't leave me dinner. She's making it right now. It's almost time for dinner. Rena had taken that assertion of mine, that my mother was home and making dinner right now, and was completely ignoring it. I could tell that because the more I panicked, the colder Rena became.
Hey, Kiachi-kun.
At that moment, an uncomfortable chill crept from the gap between the doorway.
Is your mom home? I wonder.
I couldn't keep up this charade anymore. Rena, she knew full well that my parents weren't home. But I'd come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here and we'd be having dinner soon. So that was the situation I had concocted. So I answered. I told her she was here. She's here, of course. I could feel the humidity drying out from the surrounding air. Rena's eyes were becoming even more frigid, piercing me with their gelid? With their gilid glare? Whatever.
Why?
Huh? What do you mean? I tried acting casual, but the facade was torn off me the instant I looked into Rena's eyes. That look that informed me Rena's response faster than she could open her mouth.
Why have you been lying to me, I wonder?
I'm not lying.
That is a lie, isn't it?
It's not a lie.
Lies!
Rena's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. Rena and I were still separated by what few inches of the slightly ajar but still chained door could afford. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I had considered a safe haven up until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me.
Shall I guess your dinner, Kiachi-kun? Let's see.
I knew now that Rena had already known that my parents would not be here tonight, but this was still so strange that it had become this. Even if somehow she knew that my parents weren't home, there was no way she would be able to guess what I had been eating tonight. But Rena said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know it was an instant...
Cup noodles. Is that right, isn't it?
That I was going to eat. Wait, the cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles after all. Looking at this statistically, it was the most probable answer. That didn't mean she was guessing.
I don't think you'll be full with just cup noodles. I think having nice rice and stuff will definitely hit the spot.
Calm down, Kiyachimabara. This was just a coincidence. Rena was just reading certain tells of mine, so the fact that she was inferring what I was thinking alarmed me. But it wasn't as if she was actually reading my mind. If I was being read, then she was a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that, they couldn't possibly exist.
Do you like them?
Do you mean noodles?
No!
Doesn't help when it's asterisks. I can't tell if she's cursing or just saying something random.
No.
Rena indicated that the point my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short that I momentarily didn't understand the words Rena had spoken. Sorry, Rena. What did you just say now?
Huh? About what?
Just now you asked me if there was something that I liked, didn't you? It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer, that's why I wasn't able to comprehend it.
Pork bone. Pork bone and ginger flavor.
I wondered how I appeared in the moments my mind went completely blank until the moment I was able to recover. As my field of view began to distort, slowly swirling in a counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance. Why do you know that? I didn't even deny it. That was the type of frenzied state I was in. How could Rena even know this? Not even caring as I mashed my head against the door, I fixated my gaze on Rena. but she didn't even flinch when she saw me do that. I certainly did buy them. I bought a bunch at once. I bought a whole case. How could you know that?
Why, I wonder. Quite strange, isn't it? Isn't it? How could you dodge the question at a time like this? The chain and the door suddenly were no longer protecting me. How did you know? Why do you know? Answer me! You bought them at 7th Mart, didn't you? A shiver ran up my spine. I tried covering it with an angry facade. Like I said, why do you know that? I was behind you, following you the whole time. What? What are you saying? I couldn't understand why she was saying she'd been following me all this time. That's because Rena was right behind Kiachi-kun's back the whole time. Like that night? That night I was so absorbed in my phone conversation with Iwashi-san, I didn't even sense her being there, standing behind the door behind me, standing there just like that. When Kiachi was picking out the noodles, I was watching the entire time. You picked out so many different flavors, didn't you? Then your mom got angry. If you were just going to pick the expensive ones, then why didn't you just pick one type, she said. Then Kiachi-kun picked out that big box of pork bone and ginger flavor that he loves so much, didn't he? I like it too. Pork bone noodles. But I never eat the whole big bowl myself. My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. It might have been a defense mechanism to diminish the fear I was feeling to non-traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Then I could understand what Rena was saying and started to put the meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, eyes closed so I didn't have to look down. It didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step backwards. As I withdrew, Rena advanced. So, Kiachi-kun, can you open this? We can eat dinner together. I'm sure it's going to be delicious. So, okay? Rena's pale, slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door one at a time, as if they had a mind of their own, rattling the chain. If she had unlatched the chain from the door, a feeling of terror would have exploded within me. But Rena didn't do that. She was simply imploring me to remove the chain. She was doing her hardest to light the fuse of the powder keg of my heart, trying again and again. Clatter, clatter. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light. Open up, Kiachi-kun. Please, go away. I beg you, please go away. How can you say something so mean? I wonder. Please go away! Go away! Go away! The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering, it just exploded. I tackled the door. The force through the door had knocked Rena momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate here. I grabbed onto the doorknob with both hands, planted my feet firmly, and pulled with all my might. But that slamming sound I so desired didn't happen. I could feel a tiny, disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing, and the source of that was Rena's fingers. Each of those fingers wriggling, squirming around like tendrils of carnivorous plant through the crack in the doorway. It hurts! It hurts, Kiachi-kun, it hurts! Ah! It wasn't a harsh shriek, but more of a yelp since she was trying to keep back. Go away! Go away! Go away! I kept on pulling the door with all of my
pulling the door? Isn't it pushing the door? Pushing the door with all of my might. I didn't even realize that if I didn't loosen up my pull on the door, at least momentarily, Rena would be able to wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out, and that's why the door wasn't closing.
It really hurts, Kiachi-kun. I'm sorry if I was messing around too much.
I didn't care one bit for her apology. No matter how she apologized, it didn't change any of what she had done up until now. It didn't change anything.
It hurts. It hurts. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go away! Go away! Go away! Rena couldn't leave even if she wanted to because I trapped her fingers. Rena's white fingers had become deep red and were no longer even squirming.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go away! Go away! Go away!
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Rena's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain, but like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Go away, go away, go away, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it! I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Rena's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment in the doorway. The moment that happened, the door closed soundly and I could hear the thud of Rena falling on her butt on the other side. I locked the door immediately. I made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Rena.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Kiachi-kun. I'm sorry.
Open.
Open up, Kiachi-kun.
Rena leaned against the door, apologizing profusely, but nothing else. After confirming that I was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Rena echoing her apology.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Those pitiful words, they were forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about all this at all, but that wasn't out of any sort of malice. I felt a sort of hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Rena. Before Mion had threatened me at this doorway, saying that there was nothing she didn't know, and just now at the same place Rena told me the same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact that my parents weren't home had served up no purpose from the start. I should have just pretended to be out and not even opened the door. My meager plans hadn't helped at all. In Hamnazawa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Rena as possible. One step, two steps, with each one, hearing her sniveling apologies becoming more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Rena repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the hard lump I felt. It was something in my bed? It was the receiver. I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a call with Iwashi-san. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since I went downstairs. Could it be that my clock had run out of batteries? I had talked with Rena for so long, how did almost no time pass? But the hand on the clock was ticking forward 1 second every second as usual. So as I put the still warm receiver up to my ear, time, which felt frozen, began moving once again. Hello? Iwashi-san? Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, not at all. I didn't wait that long.
It became apparent that the amount of time that had passed between myself and Iwashi-san was different. Over the phone, I could hear the energetic voice from the sports program or something that drove home just how far away Iwashi-san really was. Rena came just now.
Did she come to play?
The fuck are you talking about, dude? I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Iwashi-san. But I didn't need to right now. Right now I needed to know about Rena. That's right, I was planning to ask Iwashi-san more about Rena, but Rena's little visit had interrupted the conversation. That was true, and what was false I couldn't tell. One thing I knew was that the single grim reality that Rena was suspicious. I might be able to figure something out if I asked Iwashi-san about her. Up until now, I had regretted it whenever I forced myself to ask about things that I was better off not knowing. But looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. There was no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did right now. No, rather, I wanted to know if there was anything beyond this that I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely won't.
Regarding Ren Ryugu-san, I did a bit of digging.
Yeah,
well, it wasn't much.
I understood that Iwashi-san was talking in circles. A bit meant I dug so deep it'd be hard to discuss with you since you're her friend. I want to know everything from your research.
I don't think you'll be very interested in what I have to say, though.
Iwashi-san. I spoke as calmly as possible to Iwashi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue. And then I said it. I think Ren Ryugu is suspicious. Even if the past incidents were from Oshiro-sama's curse, Ren Ryugu is involved.
Do you have some sort of proof that makes you believe that Ren-san is suspicious?
The manner in which Iwashi-san spoke became very firm. Do you have some sort of proof? That was him talking like a detective. I only have circumstantial evidence.
I see.
I could tell even over the phone how disappointed Iwashi-san was. Pulling on the fishing line when it fell bite, only to reel in the bait. Disappointed, but ready to cast the line once more. That's how it seemed. Iwashi-san, can you do anything without physical proof? You can't do anything without physical proof, can you? What I meant was, you can't come and save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Iwashi-san loved the roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine.
It's fine, Mahabara-san. I'll protect you.
That was not the least bit reassuring. Iwashi-san was just using me to continue his investigation. I was just going to get killed, and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. That was all I was to him. Whether I'm alive or dead may be of no concern, but to your investigation... Whether I'm alive or dead may be of no concern to your investigation, but it's all over for me when I die. Iwashi-san went silent on the other end of the line. That may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed was to rely on Iwashi-san, was that I was currently in a very dangerous position. So, please tell me. Tell me about Rena. Satoshi transferred out. Not too far in the future, I will probably also do what Rena called transferring out as well. But you won't be able to find my corpse. You haven't even been able to find Satoshi's body yet.
Alright, Maribara-san, please calm down.
I was already suppressing my agitation, even without Iwashi-san having to tell me. I wouldn't solve anything if I couldn't continue to scream about my mistrust in the police. It would seem that I could still only depend on myself and the bat that Satoshi left behind to protect myself. Then, I at least wanted to know about what happened before Rena transferred schools.
You are aware that this won't be very interesting, right?
Iwashi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there is nothing that I'll find uninteresting. Please.
There are a few things I need you to agree to.
Okay.
Please, keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested?
It might not be true. I don't understand what you mean.
There isn't one main investigation for the mysterious chain of deaths in Haminazawa. Each one is treated as its own individual case. Thus, Ren Ryugu has never been linked to any of these investigations. Basically, you see,
This isn't an investigation of Rena done by the police, and is a personal inquiry, is what you're telling me?
this'll make things a lot quicker since you understand.
Alright, before I do that, I really need a drink. Like, holy crap. This episode has been going on a lot longer than I thought it would. Okay.
All of it from either phone calls or meetings and interviews. So they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take this all with a grain of salt, is what I mean. Do we have an agreement?
All of this is just taken from what you heard.
Yes, my apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see.
That thing. Before, you said you saw Rena's chart, didn't you? I'm sure I heard you say that. Higurashi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line.
I told you that, too. Please pretend you didn't hear anything about that.
I didn't care about Higurashi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if there were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire, after all. Please, tell me, Higurashi-san.
Understood.
Higurashi-san finally opened those tight lips of his. It seemed that Rena lived in Haminazawa a long time ago. She had moved to the Ibaraki prefecture after she finished elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Rena confided to the doctor.
It was Oshiro-sama.
This was all that he knew.
There isn't much difference between what I know and what you know, Maribara-san.
Then what part did you investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident that had happened just after she transferred. The incident Rena was responsible for and what she divulged to the doctor afterwards, correct?
Yes.
After you learned about that, you started suspecting Rena and the others, didn't you?
Yes, I did suspect them.
So they're the ones, after all.
No. That's not what I meant by suspect them.
Huh? Higurashi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less reassuring. Then, who did you suspect?
That it was Oshiro-sama.
What? Huh?
That Oshiro-sama's curse really exists. Yeah, right, well...
Higurashi-san's laugh was quite dry, clearly not the kind that you would make when that would make you want to join in. Higurashi-san resumed the conversation about the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance, the course of events up until the start of delving into Rena's past. Just then, there was thunder in the distance and a heavy rain started pouring down. It came without warning, rain so heavy it felt like it could beat you down. I had left the window to my room open a crack to let the heat out. The violent wind danced into my room, making the curtains flap wildly.
What is it?
Nothing. It just suddenly started raining heavily. Sorry, please continue. I got up while still on the phone and closed the window.
I said at the beginning it was just an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. So you see, those individuals were very reluctant to talk. Regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly it had permanent damage. It could have been the school or possibly some individual who made no arrangements to keep this from the going public. Also, the psychiatrist was very strict about their professional ethics. Hello? Maribara-san, can you hear me?
There was a figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even in this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In this shower, which more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand was the sack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room. Focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffing out. What could she be eating over there? How could it be that all this time I was more enthralled by Rena instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Iwashi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Then I wouldn't have noticed Rena, nor would I have noticed that. Rena's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something, she was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating to me? What was she saying? And why was I right up against the window, fixated on her?
Hello? Maribara-san, can you hear me? Hello?
I'm sorry.
Huh? Maribara-san?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hello? Maribara-san, what's the matter?
Even in this torrential downpour, Rena was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily, with my right hand blocking my view of the outside. But even doing that, Rena's relentless apologies still reached my ears.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop.
I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
Damn it! Why did I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed! If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. 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 I won't forgive.
Maribara-san, if you can hear me, then please respond. Hello?
Well, that was quite a long episode. I get the feeling that the next episode is probably the last. Let's go check out the tips, as we're gonna make this an already long episode slightly longer. I see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly? I don't know who these two are talking. I'll see it in movies quite often, but what is it exactly?
Multiple personalities are thought to be escapism.
Multiple personality disorder is a form of escape.
Correct. The exact mechanism is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a type of defense for the brain to retain mental stability.
Hypothetically, poor people imagining themselves as wealthy is a form of escapism, is it not? Is this also a form of multiple personality disorder?
I wouldn't go that far, but broadly speaking, one could infer that. It's something that occurs in us all.
Does a split personality occur when one cannot tell which is reality and which is the escape?
That is difficult to say. There are some who agree with that, but some who disagree. There is no consensus.
Then, is the occurrence of multiple personalities still an unknown phenomenon? Someone not fully comprehended in the psychiatric field? Something not fully comprehended.
Unfortunately, this is the current state of things. We can only put our hope in the future research.
But it's sort of cool having a split personality. What kind of people get split personalities?
Recent studies find those who develop it, or rather those who are more susceptible to developing it, may be genetically predisposed or may have had an abnormal mental development. Some say that childhood abuse increases the chances.
Speaking of which, Person A here experienced abuse as a child, didn't he? How sad.
Person A has 7 different personalities. Let's watch a video of him. Right after these commercials.
Okay, that was weird. The 7th Mart was a bargain supermarket with food and alcohol.
What is this, Kiachi? So many. There's no reason to get all the different kinds, is there?
I flopped all of the different colored cup noodle bowls into the cart.
Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently, and there are a bunch of different types.
Cup noodles have gotten so elaborate recently, and there are a bunch of different types. I wanted to try each of them at least once. I knew it was pretty selfish of me, but I thought I'd at least give it a try.
Kiachi, buy them all in the big case, it's cheaper.
Fuck. Kiachi, buy them all in the big case, it's cheaper, Dad flattered. Well, I had a feeling it'd end up like this. Dad knew there was no point in him butting in. Then I'd only eat one kind. I'd get bored with it. I was resisting it as a formality. I had already given up inside and wasn't sure which case of noodles to get.
If you can't pick, then Mommy will pick for you.
You don't have to rush me. I quickly searched the cases of noodles for what I want. Pork bone and ginger, large cup.
Pork bone and ginger, large cup. Hey Kiachi, can't you get a more normal one?
If I let my mom pick, she'd err on the side of safety and I'd get soy sauce or salt flavored. Pork bone is good. I don't want a big bowl of tasteless stuff. I remembered insisting that the noodles I picked were the right kind. In this frozen memory and time, this encapsulated world, I didn't have the power to look around my surroundings. So, I did what I could and reached out with my hearing and vision, sharpening my senses to find the presence I overlooked. No matter how much I searched through my field of vision, I couldn't see Rena. I rewound the situation, searching, but of course I couldn't find her. Then, was she spying on me from my blind spot? I go through the sound and presences again, looking. I could sense the other customers. They were all mixed about, moving as they pleased. There was nobody looking over this way, and no one trying to get behind me. Not here. Couldn't be here. Probably wasn't here. I would definitely notice if someone was right behind me, even when I wasn't on my guard. I smiled wryly at the thought of using a vague word like probably, right before contradicting it with definitely. Then I paused. My mental replay as a chill ran down my spine. There was definitely a presence, like a shadow behind me. That was a terror unlike any other. If a presence really had manifested behind me, I would have definitely have turned around to check for it. But the world had moved on, and there was no way for me to turn around. While carrying that frightening shadow on my back, I was gleefully running around the store searching for a case of noodles? Running through the instant noodle section, bad-mouthing my mom. But there was that presence constantly at my back, sticking to me like a shadow. No way to see what it was. Realizing it now after the fact was horrifying and repulsive. In that moment of time, I was running around gleefully, carrying that cardboard box, tip-tap. But listening to that moment again, I could hear the footsteps other than mine going pit-pat with every step. Tip-tap, 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 pit-pat, pit-pat, pit-pat. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. Tip-tap, tip-tap, pit-pat, pit-pat. While I was running, the sound of those barefoot footsteps going pit-pat were right behind me. Me running around gleefully in that closed-off moment in time. But I didn't hear it. No, I heard it. That's why I remembered it. I just didn't think I heard anything. That's why I didn't turn around. That's why I didn't turn around. In that moment, the pit-pat of those footsteps were following me the entire time. I couldn't run faster and escape. I couldn't run any faster than I had ran at the time. I couldn't turn around. I hadn't turned around before, not once. Then I returned to my parents and started talking. The shadow-like presence was right at my back. Since I didn't move, the shadow didn't move. Is that why it made no sound? That was all. At that time, I hadn't taken a single step while talking to my parents. I was just standing there. This was undeniable. And yet, I heard it. A pit-pat. That shouldn't be. If I took 3 steps, it followed 3 steps. Wasn't that the rule? There was no sound other than that. At that time, the entire world had gone dark. A sudden darkness. It was the end of my reflective journey. I was tired. I wanted it to end. I wanted to end it. Someone turn on the light. Except my body couldn't move. As if I was sewn into that moment in time. Pit-pat. My past self's hair stood on end. That's impossible. Now it's just breaking the rules. I haven't moved. So you shouldn't be moving either. I couldn't move. So you shouldn't be able to move either. Follow the rules. Pit-pat. Yet that sound echoed in the darkness once again. The hair on the back of my neck prickled up on end. It was so close that it was hard to tell whether it was touching the hair or not. Why couldn't I move? Like how the presence was moving behind me. I quickly realized I could move. That it's just that I was scared and didn't want to. But now was the only time I could turn around. It was something unforgivable in this moment in time, but I needed to turn around immediately. As if my entire being was trying to force me to stop, and it began to administer a pain like a needle being stuck into my every pore. I'll turn around. I'll turn around! I'm not scared at all. I'll turn around. I'll turn around. I'm not scared at all. A scream I was unable to vocalize. Ah! I turned around. At first, I couldn't understand the meaning of it. What? What is this? The situation in front of my eyes was just like a mouth biting an apple and slurping the juice, the way you would do with an apple. My mind was being eaten. It began to munch down, slurping the juices because it was like an apple. Meaning, what was in front of me was... no fucking idea! Okay. Things are definitely, getting weirder. Definitely not, not so simple anymore, since this curse is probably real. A lot of things happened in this episode. We got the bat. We got stopped and talked to by Rena, who then freaked us the fuck out. We maybe fought a ghost or were going insane and beat up shit in the doorway. Our parents are not home anymore. Rena came over. We talked with Iwashi-san. And then that tip... I feel very strongly that the next episode is the last episode of Higurashi When They Cry. At least for the main story bit. There might be some extra bits after the main story stuff, like tips or some kind of epilogue thing or other story. I have no idea. I'm just guessing based on what I saw from the achievements list. But anyway, next time on Higurashi When They Cry, it's most likely the end. See you then.
I'm sorry, Kiyachi-kun.